Hello, welcome. I thought I would build just a small diorama over a couple of weeks and a little bit each day, and just put this into a nice quick video. Probably just a two-part video. I'm not sure what I'm going to make. I've got some scrap track, an off-cut board, basically off-cuts of wood. I've got a bit of new wood to use as well, and what I want to do is I'm going to cut this down a little bit, I think, or maybe just extend this track. But it's not the greatest or the straightest track in the world if you look down it or anything like that, but it doesn't really matter because it's not going to really run any locomotives. It's just going to be a static display, and I wanted to do a winter display, so I thought I'd have a go. So I want it on an angle like this, and I want it on an embankment, so I'm going to use some bits of the scrap wood to make the embankment. I think that would be high enough. Maybe I could use it a little bit higher if I wanted to, but obviously that's not long enough or anything like that, so I do have a little bit more, but that is actually 44 by 34 mil, I think it is, so it is actually about that high. Is that going to cause me, isn't it going to look too high for such a small area? I don't know, but I could still utilise this and just cut it into a couple of pieces, so the track's supported all the way along, and then just fill in the rest, really. And I might actually just do that because I don't want to be really using too much new stuff on this. I want it at a slight angle. I'm going to do a few trees. It's got a winter scene. I want it to go sort of a snow scene. So I'm going to start cutting this wood, getting this track laid, and I'll see you shortly. As you can see, I've got all the bits cut, and I've decided on something very slightly different. I want to put the canal just going underneath the railway, so I'm going to get these supports on the front and the back, and as you can see I've cut a nice groove on there, so you'll have a scene a bit like this. So, and then I might need to just narrow it a little bit or bring that in. But that would be sort of how I'd like to see it. Maybe I need to work out exact width for that, I think, though it doesn't really matter too much, but it's as it's going under a bridge. So I'm going to have that like this, so we have a nice angle going across, and I just need to put these supports underneath, and then I can put a bit of support underneath the where the canal is going to be, and then put some resin in there, and I think that'll look quite good. So, and then I'll do the embankments coming down on either side, just some fields and trees, I think, you know, make a nice scene. So let's get all this clean. Right, you can see I've got the main layout. Let's just get this cardboard out of the way so you can actually see what you're working on. So I've got our nice canal. It's going to be able to view it from either sort of side. That's the plan. And then I need to get the track set up. Got the bridge to do. I need a little bit longer track than that, so do I use a different piece, or just chop a piece off one of the other ones? But right, I'm going to get the track on and the bridge connected. I might need to just make this a little bit wider, but just having a think about this now, maybe I start to build the scenery in the embankment before I put the track on, because I could end up with getting some of the expanding foam onto the track. So I think that's what I'm going to do. The expanding foam is going to go on next to try and build the embankment up, and then we can get the track on and then the bridge. And I need to build a boat. So it's quite a little bit of work to do, but I think it'll come on fairly quick. So that's the next plan, get the expanding foam on there. This is quite an old can of the expanding foam I've used before. It's got new nozzles, and hoping it's still plenty in there, but will it come out? So as you see, I've got the cardboard back down because expanding foam can be messy. So let's see if we can get it to work. Yeah. Might need to put a bit more on. Oh, I've got it on the track bed. So that's a good job I didn't put any I'm gonna got to be sort of a little bit careful, because yeah, it looks like you haven't put enough on, and then suddenly, as the name says, expanding foam. And what I will be doing is getting some plaster bandage, plaster cloth over it afterwards. So I'm just going to leave that to go off now, and trim it back up. So right, I'm going to clean all up, just clean the nozzle out, and then tape it back up like I did before, because I'd left it for quite a while, and I just put some masking tape over it, and yeah, there's hardly anything left in that one anyway, so probably won't be using it again. Right, you can see all the expanding foam is now set, and I'll just need to trim this into the areas that I want. And there's a bit of a stray piece there, so as you can see, it's really well expanded now, so I will need to level this off. So just use an old knife, don't use one of the best ones that you've got. Blades coming out, could be done with a slightly longer blade, I think. That's okay. And even the bits you discard off, you can actually utilise if you needed to, if you found that there's a gap somewhere. So I'm just going to level this off first and then sculpt the rest of it. I think I could do with a longer blade on there. Over the edge here. So look fine. So I'm going to need And if you do find that you've got gaps, the plaster cloth will cover a lot of those as well, so it's not actually that bad. Just quite a bit of mess. That's nearly slicing my finger there. Drop this round so you can get to and if you've not left this long enough to set, you will find that when you start to cut it like this, you'll have sticky bits in the middle. That's why I will say always use an old knife, because then you don't ruin, so you don't get it all over the handle. It's not so bad over the blade. So that's not too bad. It's like nicely shaped. A few loose bits that will get covered in the plaster cloth. And I'll just get this all tidied up and start getting the plaster cloth. Right, I'm going to just cover this in sort of plaster cloth now. So what I always do is I just put this into manageable pieces, so which makes it so much easier, and you don't waste too much then or anything like that. So that might be enough. Let's have a look. I can always cut some more. And what I've got is, I always do a little bit of a PVA mix. It's only a light mix of PVA and water. I just find that helps it seal, because some of this foam sometimes doesn't seal that well, you know, on the expanding foam. So, and this just helps it. Let's you don't need to over soak this or anything like that. So let's and then apply at least 2 or 3 layers, you know. And it quickly starts to take shape, really. And if you find you want more around there, but I'm going to put like a wall along there, because that's going to be like the towpath and things like that. So you'll have a little bit of a retaining wall. actually dries quite quick, this. So. I can tidy the ends up afterwards anyway. Now I've got enough to do one layer. So I'm going to start I'm going to need to cut a bit more, so I'm going to carry on getting another layer over all this, and I think I might put it onto this surface as well, because obviously you want a texture on there because this is all going to be grass. So let me carry on with this and come back and hopefully nice all set. This is all nice and dry now. I think there's still a little bit of moisture on there, but that'll be okay. Now I'm going to give it a good coat of paint. And use just some green and a little drop of black just to darken it off. And I just need a little brush to stir this with or something. Just want a really good dark green for a really good base. Probably need to get a bit more paint. We'll see how we get on. And I'm going to really blitz it by just using a massive brush. We're going to have to do a couple of coats just to make sure. We're definitely going to need a lot more paint. So bear with me and I'll get all this painted. Right, that is all the paint on. One thing I did forget about putting on was a little bit of filler in the bottom of the canal bed, just to make sure it's all watertight. It's going to, so because I've got a couple of gaps in the boards there where I add the edges, and so I'm not too worried if I get any greening with this filler, so because it's going to get a coat of paint on the underneath. But I do definitely need to make sure that I've filled all the gaps. And along all the edges. Just needs a thin layer. I'm going to need to block off the ends before we put it in the water anyway, so I'll do a final waterproofing. That doesn't look too bad, nice coat over the whole lot. and so I've got a lot of this green paint on my fingers. It's actually painted the bottom of the canal bed, you know, but I wanted a slightly different colour to that anyway, so I wanted a sort of a nice dark brown at the bottom of there, and then we'll do a more murky sort of water in there. But, right, I'm going to leave this all to dry because that's going to take a little bit of time, and then I can come back and get the I think the track bed on and all the flock. And it's time almost to get the track down. I'm going to be using this piece of track. I'm going to give it a bit of weathering before I put it down, so I'm not spraying it over that. I've cut a piece of cardboard that I want for the bridge, so this is just going to slot in just underneath, possibly that way around was how I did it, not sure, but it does just fit in. But I'm going to be ballasting this, so card and water is absolutely going to be no good whatsoever. So I'm going to seal the card using the Mod Podge, and this really does produce a good waterproof seal to anything. It's a bit like a PVA glue, but it's not quite PVA. And you might have seen me use this on making waves on the harbour scene. So if you and you just use a straw, blow the waves on, and it seals a very nice solid sort of cover over whatever you're doing. So I'm just going to really paint a bit of this on. I've got a bit of green. I think I must have still had a bit of green paint on the brush, so that's unfortunate. It doesn't really matter, you know. So I've now got Mod Pod over this. It's not the most pleasant smell, so if you ever buy some, you'll know straight away. And what I also have done, let me just try and prop that up, just want it to dry a little bit. What I did is just make some templates of the sides of the there where I need to make the walls. It's just rough templates, so then I can cut this out, make a stone embankment, and then that'll go on there, and then that'll just be a nice easy way. I am going to use some Mod Pod on the bed as well, once I've decided on what colour. So I'm going to put a sort of a bit of a brown on there just to paint that in. So I'm going to do that now while I've got access and while this is drying, and then I'm going to spray the track and then get that track down. So on here I'm going to use a burnt umber paint colour, and I'm just going to put a bit on, and I'm going to use a bit of a wash to sort of blend it in. So it's not a strong block. quite how I was expecting, but not too bad. You know, once I've got the murky water in there, it'll look okay. And I just want to try and move a bit of the darkness from the edges. And leave a darker piece just in the middle. Okay, I think once that's dried, that will look okay. Right, I've printed some concrete paths. These are actually from Sculpting's dock edge that I used, and I've printed these, and these are ones that I've created in a Photoshop from a scale scene, and these are for the canal edge. So this will be the sort of the edge of the canal there. I've sprayed all these with a lacquer on both sides to try to make them more waterproof, and also stops the UV. I did notice there's a slight error on my printer on this, but good thing to do is when you're using a cutting anything out and you've cut anything else, just snap the a new blade off. It's so disheartening when you just start to cut something and then it just starts to tear. So always use a new blade. Now these snap-on ones are great because you can just snap off the next piece and you get a brand new blade again. I don't think I've got that quite to the edge there. So I'm only going to use this small piece, which is like a dock edge, and this is going to become the concrete path. So I'm going to discard the rest. So I'm hopefully going to have enough with just 2 sheets really. So I'm going to carry on getting all this cut out, and then I'm going to get it onto the layout, or onto the diorama really. It's not a layout as such. I'm going to get these concrete paths put on here. I've got a couple of options. I can either use some PVA. One of the problems with using PVA, it can get too wet, so I'm actually going to just use a prick stick and just see if this will work, and I'm not going to get it too wet then, so I won't lose any of the colour out of there. Now that looks like it will work, so I'm going to apply a good liberal amount of this on there. Doesn't matter if I go over the edge because we're going to be putting some grass on there and using PVA glue anyway, so which I'm going to have to be quite careful when I get to the edge. So really it's I need to just overlap that, so, and then I'm going to trim it off. That's going to stick nice, and it's also positionable. Got a little bit on my finger there, so doesn't matter too much if you get any glue marks, because I'm going to use some matte spray again over the top, which will remove any of those. Just want to make sure that the join is fairly close. maybe I could have put the join right in the middle and you wouldn't see it then. I'm going to try that. I think that might be a better solution. That's a good thing with this Pritt stick, it is repositionable, but you're not totally depending on the surfaces that you're using, so don't think you can just pull it up all the time. If you're sticking paper to paper, then it's not. Oh, that would be better. The join right in the middle. And then when the bridge is over it, it's going to be very difficult to see that join. So I'll do the same on this one. I think I'll use it that way round. Use the only finger that hasn't got any glue on it. It's a good idea to just have a cloth. Like I say, it's a good idea, but I haven't done it. You just really need to leave that to dry a little bit, especially before you trim any the ends off. So, and you'll see what I meant with this canal edge. That's going to go on here and then fold it across, and that will give me a nice sort of paved edge to that. So I'm going to add those on in a minute, just let this dry. I'm going to just put the dot edge on now, and I'm just going to use the Pritt stick just on the edge there. And join it in the middle like I did on the last one, but I need to know there we go, that should be. And once the glue's dried, I'll fold it over at that point. It just makes it easier. Oh, there's the next one. Hard doing it away from you. Okay, and then the last piece. Most of the time in this build is waiting for things to dry, so I am going to let all that dry before I trim them off and then fold it over, and then I'm going to use some PVA glue when I fold that over, and then that creates a more waterproof seal as well. Right, this is all nicely dried now, so trim that nice and neat. And now I'm just going to finish off that edge. So this is just a wood PVA really. So but works really well because it's actually quite quite a strong glue, but quite good for this paper and card. I think a lot of people use like rocket glue and things like that, but I've got all this Wilco glue that I bought in the past, so I'm just using that really. I've got some on my paper there, but that's not to worry because that's going to go where the water level is. Right, I'm just going to it's folded over. I'm not too worried if I've got any glue showing on the canal there, because that will be concealed. Just don't want any creases. I think that's nice and secure. Starting to look quite good. I was going to paint all this in, but I thought it'd be quicker just to use some paper textures this time rather than painting a concrete path. So that just needs to dry, but in the meantime I'm going to start putting some grass textures on here, but I'm going to need to just put something underneath the board to collect any of the stray grass. Right, I'm going to get all the artificial grass on here now, so I'm just going to use just some PVA glue. This is slightly different to the other one because it's a bit more runny and better for putting on with the artificial grass, or you know, people call it static grass, but only really if you've got a static grass applicator. I don't use one. Anyway, I'm going to just get a good amount of PVA glue over it all. careful I don't get any right up to the concrete edge. I will sort of do that as a very gently with the brush. You don't really want to be too thin on this. Doesn't matter if you've got a bit too much, because it's all goes into the texture. Oops, I'm going to get the concrete there. Oops, that wasn't very clever. We carried away there. Actually, the paint isn't quite dry there, so yeah. Right, I think we've got enough on there. What I normally use, I just use just a small sieve. And just go over it all. Oops, didn't mean to do that, but let me I'm going to carry on with the rest of this and get it all covered, and then we'll come back. I've got all the grass texture on there now, so I'm going to need to put some bushes on and all the vegetation. I'm just going to clean up the excess where it's over the track bed and just on the canal, so I'm just vacuuming that out. And it might look like you've got some gaps, but that's actually where the glue is still wet, and it's just, so that will dry, and if there is a few more gaps we can put a bit more over the top there, but I think I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to be putting I've never done it before, but I want to put a snow over the top, so I'm going to see how that goes. It should be just the same as putting any other grass scatter on there. So I'm going to get my track piece and put that over and just have a look, and then I can start building the bridge. What I have done is I've sprayed all the track in camo brown, along with the bridge and everything like that, so that will sit there nicely. And I've just got to glue that in place, and I've got some girder bridge sides. So these are the girder bridge sides that I'm going to be putting in, and they will go in just like that. Should give me the look that I'm after, hopefully. And I've got the spacing right, so I'm going to just straighten this track out a little bit, I think. It is an old second-hand piece of track. I decided to use a different piece to what I was, because they weren't long enough, and I'm just going to then chop those off at the end. So I just need to have this glued in place first. So I think I need to put a small piece filler in there, so when I do ballast it, the ballast doesn't all fall out. Don't want that. Right, I'm just going to glue that in place. I'm just going to use some PVA glue, and then that will be fixed in place. And it really is just waiting for everything to dry now. So that's always the time consuming part. I'll just use my finger there. I put the brush somewhere. I wasn't sure where it'd gone, so it's not a problem. I've got it all over my hands, so I need to weigh that down. So I'm just going to get some food tins, weigh this down, let it all dry, and then really I can start to get the ballast on there. And then I'll create some bridge sides in card with I think stone texture would be good for that. But I think that's it for part one, and I will see you on part two. Have a good evening, take care, thank you for watching.